during the first half of this year, covering most of the country's villages. Additionally, efforts have also been made in garbage sorting, residential sewage treatment and village management. Grandeur is a villager in Ningqi City, Tibet. He says the conditions in his village have significantly improved thanks to the favorable policies.
Before, the road was unpaved, water quality was bad, and we didn't have tap water. The conditions in my village have improved a lot. We now have paved roads, new toilets, and the environment has become much better.
Over the past few years, over 60% of villages nationwide introduced garbage sorting policies, contributing to over 30% of garbage reduction in the countryside. However, Hu Bing with the Bureau of Ecology and Environment in Huzhou City, Zhejiang Province, says there are also difficulties.
At
the beginning, villagers were not willing to install sewage treatment facilities. That was because in their minds, there was no need to process sewage water and garbage. After we carried out several pilot green programs in some villages, those who were originally reluctant to install sewage treatment facilities have changed their minds.
To raise villagers' awareness of improving the environment, some villages have encouraged villagers to take turns in cleaning up their villages, such as sweeping the roads. The improved environment has given a boost to local tourism. Liu Shuhong is a village official in Lhasa, Tibet.
The village is undergoing a transformation towards a recreational tourist site and has become not only more beautiful, but it can also showcase the local culture to tourists. The village can benefit from the tourism industry.
Meanwhile, efforts have been made to strengthen financial services, including issuing targeted government bonds to improve the environment. Chinese authorities say they will also upgrade facilities in agricultural production and continue to improve working and living conditions for people living in rural areas. For the Beijing Hour, I'm Xiaoyi.
Zimbabwe is once again moving towards using the U.S. dollar as the local currency depreciates, fueling inflation and economic hardship. Gao Junyat reports.
So do you take a local cash? Yes. What's the exchange rate?
Vendors in the capital Harare usually accept payments in both the U.S. dollar and the local Zimbabwe dollar. The exchange rate they apply is $1 to 100 Zimbabwean dollars. Compared to the official rate that currently stands at 1 to 69. Charging a higher rate is common among local traders, especially in the retail sector. Vendor Chidia says continual depreciation has undermined people's confidence in the country's currency.
They are not stable. They just go up and go up and go up any day, any time, at moment without any short notice. So the reason for charging a little bit high than the official rate is just because you are not aware when the rate is going to take off. The only safe way is just to charge a little bit so that even if the rates go up, you've already accounted for it.
Zimbabwe first dumped its own currency in favor of the U.S. dollar and other currencies during the global financial crisis over a decade ago, when hyperinflation wiped out nearly all savings of its people. But that later led to a shortage of foreign currencies, worsening economic wounds in the country. As part of a bailout plan, the country reintroduced its local currency last November with the official rate at $1 to 15 local dollars. But in less than 8 months, the Zimbabwean dollar has shrunk over 400%, while the inflation rate has soared to over 780%. Economic analyst Joe Chifamba suggests the future of the Zimbabwe dollar is bleak given the current difficulties.
So far, the reintroduction of the Zimbabwe dollar hasn't worked. There is no confidence among the people. The local currency will keep on depreciating because there is not much in terms of exports to support it. Zimbabwe remains largely a net importer of goods. Foreign direct investment has also remained elusive despite the Zimbabwe is open for business months.
But he warns reintroducing the use of the U.S. dollar may plunge the country into another dilemma.
But if full-scale dollarization happens, there's definitely going to be a shortage again, as was the case which led to the introduction of bond notes in 2016 to plug the US dollar cash shortage. Some briefcase business people will also come into the country and easily mop up the available foreign currency, as has also happened in the past.
Last December, President Emerson Mnangagwa vowed not to revert to using the U.S. dollar, but it now looks like history is repeating itself. And the coronavirus pandemic seems to be making it even harder for the Southern African country to find an effective solution to its decades-long economic problems. For the Beijing Hour, I'm Gao Junya, reporting from Harare, Zimbabwe.
Russia says it has no plan to rejoin the Group of 7, given its satisfaction with the Group of 20. Moscow suggests the G7 lacks global significance because it excludes countries like China. Russia was part of the Group of 8, along with Britain, Canada, France, Germany, Italy, Japan, and the United States, but its membership was terminated over the annexation of Crimea in 2014. U.S. President Donald Trump earlier proposed an expansion of the G7 to include Russia, India, Australia, and South Korea. We're at 28 minutes past the hour. Checking the forecast ahead of the break, and Beijing will see thunder showers today. The high is 32 degrees Celsius. Moderate rainfall expected tonight with a low of 22. Chongqing will be sunny in 36, a low of 26. Lhasa is getting some rain in 25, a low of 12. Hong Kong will see thunder showers on the day. The high is 33, the low 28. Over to North America, Washington, D.C. will see moderate rainfall and 33 degrees Celsius. New York City is getting some rain and 40. It's time for a short break so far this hour. The Chinese president set to deliver a speech to open the 5th annual meeting of the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank. U.S. President Donald Trump's national security advisors tested positive for the novel coronavirus. And the head of the WHO says the global pandemic situation continues to get worse. Shane Begum with you. Stay with us here on the Beijing Hour.
Most popular Chinese language learning page on Facebook by searching for CRI Learn Chinese. It's a quick yet fun way to achieve your language goals. Start your free lessons now with unlimited videos, photos, and text tutorials on expressions and Chinese culture. CRI Learn Chinese Facebook page. The world opens with 你好.
Examining the events that impact and shape China and the rest of the world. This is the Beijing Hour, 1 hour of news and information brought to you every weekday. Now here's your host.
Shane Begum with you on this Tuesday morning. Still to come. In business, the select tier of China's new third board has begun trading. In sports, season-opening action from the Chinese Super League. In culture and entertainment, Christopher Nolan's Tenet finally gets some release dates. There are a number of ways to contact us. You can talk to us on Twitter at China Plus News, or log on to Facebook, China Plus News, for more news, videos, and analysis. Now today's headlines. The Asia Infrastructure Investment Bank will hold its 5th annual meeting later today via video link. Chinese President Xi Jinping will deliver a speech at the opening ceremony. The bank was established in December 2015 and began operations less than a month later. The number of its approved members worldwide has surpassed 100. China says the closure of the U.S. consulate in Chengdu is a justified and necessary response. The closure was ordered after Washington demanded the shutdown of the Chinese consulate in Houston, Texas last week. Chinese authorities took over the U.S. consulate yesterday. Foreign Ministry spokesman Wang Wenbin calls on the U.S. side to contribute to the development of bilateral ties.
中美之间出现目前的局面是我们不愿意看到的。
The current relationship between China and the U.S. is something we do not wish to see. The U.S. side bears the entire responsibility. Once again, we urge the U.S. side to immediately correct its mistakes and create necessary conditions for the bilateral relations to return to the track of normal development.
Closure of consulates in each other's countries marks a new low point in relations between the two sides. It's been mired in dispute for several issues now. China now maintains consulates in San Francisco, Los Angeles, Chicago, and New York, in addition to the embassy in Washington. The U.S. has 4 other consulates in China and the embassy in Beijing. U.S. President Donald Trump's national security advisor is tested positive for the novel coronavirus. A White House statement says there was no risk of exposure to Trump or Vice President Mike Pence. It says Robert O'Brien has mild symptoms and has been self-isolating and working from a secure location off-site. O'Brien's the highest-ranking official in the Trump administration to have tested positive for the coronavirus. Media reports say the Iranian government spokesperson has been hospitalized with COVID-19. He's the latest among several officials to have been infected with the coronavirus in the country. Iran's recorded over 290,000 COVID-19 cases and nearly 16,000 deaths, the highest figures in the Middle East. A vice president, a member of the Expediency Council, and several parliamentarians are among the officials who've been infected with the coronavirus. Vietnam's evacuating 80,000 people, mostly local tourists, from the city of Da Nang following a new COVID-19 outbreak. 14 local cases have been reported in the tourist hotspot over the past few days. None of them had international travel history. The evacuations are expected to take at least 4 days, with domestic airlines operating about 100 flights daily from Da Nang to other cities. Russia says it has no plan to rejoin the Group of 7, given its satisfaction with the Group of 20. Moscow suggests the G7 lacks global significance because it excludes countries like China. Russia was part of the Group of 8, along with Britain, Canada, France, Germany, Italy, Japan, and the United States. But its membership was terminated over the annexation of Crimea in 2018. U.S. President Donald Trump earlier proposed an expansion of the G7 to include Russia, India, Australia, and South Korea. The Iranian Deputy Foreign Minister says the country will continue its peaceful nuclear program in compliance with the International Atomic Energy Organization regulations. Abbas Araghchi says that Iran's removed all ambiguities and misinformation regarding its nuclear program. He adds that the country is ready to return to all of its commitments under the 2015 Iranian nuclear deal whenever its interests are served. Iran's been steadily dropping commitments under the agreement following the U.S. withdrawal from that deal in 2018 and announced the final step to abandon commitments in January. The NASA administrators outlined goals for the next Mars rover mission. Jim Bridenstine made the remarks days ahead of the launch of the Perseverance rover that's scheduled for Thursday. He says the mission's designed to search for evidence of ancient microbial life on Mars, and the rover will gather rock and soil samples for return to Earth.
We're going to cast samples on the surface of another world for a future mission in 2026 to bring those samples back to Earth. And that will be the first time in history that we've done a Mars return mission. In fact, it's the first time in history we've done a return mission from any planet.
Now, the rover will also characterize Mars's climate and geology and pave the way for human exploration of the red planet. Perseverance will be the 9th NASA spacecraft visiting Mars' surface, and the first that includes gathering samples from the red planet. The mission's also the 3rd one to Mars this summer, following the previous 2 conducted by the United Arab Emirates and China.
You're listening to the Beijing Hour. 60 minutes of comprehensive news. Your window on China and the world.
36 minutes past the hour now. Turning to business news, the select tier of China's National Equities Exchange and Quotations, or the new third board, has begun trading. 32 companies were listed on Monday. These enterprises issued more than 800 million shares, raising over 9 billion yuan. Launched in 2013, the National Equities Exchange and Quotation supplements the Shanghai and Shenzhen stock exchanges and offers smaller companies a financing channel with low costs and simple listing procedures. Starting from Monday, companies that have been listed in the select tier for a year will be qualified to get listed in the Science and Technology Innovation Board of the Shanghai Stock Exchange or the Growth Enterprise Market of the Shenzhen Stock Exchange. Experts say it offers opportunities for SMEs to raise funds. Fan Xiaoxin is vice chairman of the China Association of Small and Medium Enterprises.
它既可以支持到那些 small and medium-sized enterprises that have the opportunity to enter the main board market, but also provide convenience for smaller micro, small and medium-sized enterprises to enter the multi-tier capital market and grow in an open market.
So far, more than 70 companies have submitted documents for public offering and getting listed on the select tier of the new third board. Official data shows that profits of China's major industrial firms totaled nearly 670 billion yuan, roughly $95 billion in June, an increase of 12% year on year. Major industrial companies are those with an annual business turnover of at least 20 million yuan. Data from the National Bureau of Statistics shows that the growth widened by 5.5 percentage points from that of May. In the first half of the year, profits of major industrial firms declined by nearly 13% to 2.5 trillion yuan. And with more on this, we're joined by financial analyst Einar Tangen. Good morning.
Good morning.
So the NBS data shows that industrial sectors have clawed back some losses now. What are the major factors that contributed to the expansion of profits last month?
Well, quite frankly, it was a lot of it's based on this stimulus, return to demand, and obviously because they've been able to handle COVID-19 so far. So without this kind of second wave that you're seeing, no, I shouldn't say second wave, second part of the first wave that you're seeing in international markets, China has been able to reopen its economy, although some places more cautiously than others, and that has been the main factors. It just returned to somewhat normal.
Well, the NBS data shows that profits of manufacturers bounced back in the second quarter. Equipment makers and high-tech manufacturers saw the best performance during this period. So can we say from this that stimulus policies and new infrastructure are having an impact?
They are, but it's a kind of a stop-and-go type of situation. As you were just reporting earlier, there are continued attempts by the government to fine-tune things. They didn't want property to become a bigger issue. They have been pushing people towards the stock markets. This is the greatest number of new investors in the stock markets in quite some number of years. Also, the amount of leverage, people borrowing money in order to buy stocks, has gone up to the same levels as 2015. This tells you that the government is trying to push this new investment-driven model, but they're trying to get more participation by the huge number of people who have savings.
Well, profits in 9 of the 41 industrial sectors surveyed rose compared to a year earlier, while 31 sectors saw their profits fall. So what possible stimulus options can we expect to jumpstart industrial sectors through the rest of the year?
Well, there's a lot of emphasis on making sure that the banks remain profitable. The big four banks are a huge component of profits. They distribute dividends, and this is very important. They're obviously going to experience some loan loss reserves due to companies going out of business, which seems to be a growing trend. Even though things are returning to normal, many companies have lost markets or they do not have the liquidity that they need. So they're trying to do things like the RRR, the internal amount that banks have to reserve in order to push out loans. But these types of things are, small compared to trying to get local governments to invest in infrastructure projects. So using a more finance-based approach, all surrounding bonds. And hopefully this will continue. They're being careful to make sure that their rates on bonds are very attractive, especially in the international market where you basically have nothing in Europe and America. In China, it's over 3 to 4%, depending on the maturity rate. So these are the main areas pushing this kind of return to normalcy through projects. There's obviously going to be a little bit of a hold on the reform and deleveraging that was prominent before, but it's necessary given the circumstances.
Thank you very much for that. That was financial analyst Einar Tangen commenting on the performance of China's major industrial firms in June. At 44 past the hour, it's estimated that China's economy will grow 2.5% this year. A report by Bloomberg says China's economy will expand 5.5% this quarter from a year earlier and up 6% in the final 3 months of the year. The strength of Chinese exports in the second quarter prompted economists to increase their estimate for trade in the rest of the year, and they also revised up the inflation forecast to 2.5% for this year, up from 2.4% earlier. Yesterday marked the beginning of the 100-day countdown to the third China International Import Expo. 1 day earlier, 35 member enterprises signed a memorandum of understanding on long-term participation in the event. Paul Washer is Chief Financial Officer of Greater China for Fonterra, one of the world's largest dairy producers.
Through the CIAE, which shows there's an open policy in terms of open trade, and we want to be part of that. We think it's a great opportunity for foreign companies, and that's given us confidence to actually not only decide on looking at this year, we've signed for the next 3 years, is to highlight that we have that commitment not only to CIAE, but to China as a country and to a business.
Ho Mung-kit, CEO of Singapore Business Federation, and he says the expo will bring new opportunities for various countries in international trade and investment, cultural exchanges, and cooperation.
I think CIIE is going to be even more important, not just to showcase the Chinese domestic market and the attraction of it, but also to showcase to the world that, China leads the world in opening borders, and we want to be very much part of it. And I think many other countries, want to be also part of it.
This year's event is scheduled for November 5th to the 10th in Shanghai. Google will allow most of its employees to work from home through June of next year as COVID-19 cases continue to surge. A report by the San Francisco Chronicle says the company has decided to keep its workforce under a work-from-home mandate until at least July of 2021. CEO Sundar Pichai says most of the company's workers can stay home for an additional 6 months, extending a policy that was previously through the end of this year. The decision will affect up to 200,000 Alphabet employees and contract workers. You're listening to the Beijing Hour. Coming up in sports, we have action from the new CSL season.
The Beijing Hour. Hello, I'm Peter Dinklage from X-Men Days of Future Past. You are listening to the Beijing Hour.
Hi, I'm Kathy Freeman, and you're listening to the Beijing Hour.
Hi, everyone. I'm Lang Lang. Welcome to the Beijing Hour.
The Beijing Hour, your window to China and the world.
47 past the hour now. Turning to sports, here's Yang Guang.
Thank you, Shane. In the Chinese Super League, Brazilian forward Ricardo Pereira scored 2 goals in his Shanghai SAPG debut as his side claimed a 3-1 win over Tianjin Teda in the season opener. SAPG now tops Group B in the Suzhou competition zone with goal advantage. The top 4 teams from the 2 groups advanced to the 8-team championship stage in September. Liverpool coach Jurgen Klopp has been named the League Managers Association Manager of the Year after leading the Reds to their first English top-flight title in 30 years. Former Manchester United coach Sir Alex Ferguson reviewed the trophy, which is named after him. Ferguson jokingly said he will forgive Klopp for ringing him at 3:30 in the morning to tell him Liverpool won the league. Leeds United boss Marcelo Bielsa won the championship award after guiding his side to the title and promotion to the Premier League. Liverpool has confirmed that midfielder Adam Lallana and defender Dion Lovren have left the club. Lallana signed a 3-year contract with the Premier League side Brighton. The 32-year-old says he will use his Liverpool experience to help young players on his new team.
I'm fortunate enough to, over the course of my career and especially in the last 6 years, to go to major international championships, so there's a lot of experience that I've been fortunate enough to gather, and if I can, help in a little way, especially on the younger lads, and help guide them and nurture them and improve them, then, I really like to do that.
Meanwhile, Lovren has completed a $14 million move to Zenit St. Petersburg, ending a 6-year spell at Anfield. Paris Saint-Germain forward Kylian Mbappe has been ruled out for 3 weeks after he suffered an ankle injury in Friday's French Cup final win over Saint Etienne. It means Mbappe will miss PSG's Champions League quarterfinal against the Italian side Atalanta in Lisbon on August the 12th. PSG hopes the striker will be back if they reach the semi-finals, which will take place a week later. Chinese striker Wu Lei has committed his future to Spanish club Espanyol despite the side's relegation to the second division. Wu scored 4 league goals this season as Espanyol crashed out of La Liga with just 25 points. Given his popularity in China, many expected the striker to change clubs, but Wu says he has told his teammates and the club of his desire to remain and help Espanyol bounce back to the top flight. The Barcelona-based outfit is expected to name their new head coach in the coming days, with Mallorca boss Vincent Moreno the favorite. In the CBA, Xinjiang crushed Jiangsu 110-70 to finish second in the regular season. Zhou Qi finished with 23 points and 14 rebounds. Tianjin dragged the game into overtime before overcoming Guangzhou 118-110. Elsewhere, Shanxi defeated Zhejiang Lions 107-100. Qingdao beat Jilin 99-80, and Shenzhen defeated Zhejiang Golden Bulls 107-96. The CBA playoffs will tip off this Friday with teams ranking 5th to 12th contending for 4 quarterfinal spots, while the regular season's top 4 finishers enjoy a bye to the second round. In golf, Michael Thompson birdied 2 of the last 3 holes for 2-stroke victory at the 3M Open. It's his second PGA Tour win in 7 years.
It means the world. I can't wait to give my son the biggest hug, to celebrate with him, go get cupcakes or something, to hug and cry with my wife. We worked so hard, and she's been such a huge support for me.
Thompson finished at 4 under 67. Overnight leader Adam Long took second place after a 64. The Qatar Olympic Committee has announced that the country has formally submitted a request to host the Olympic Games in 2032 and will be to become the first Middle East nation to stage the Olympics. Qatar made the request in a letter sent to the International Olympic Committee to join the phase of continuous dialogue about hosting a future Games. Australia, India, Indonesia, and Germany have also expressed an interest in hosting the Games. Qatar, which made unsuccessful bids to host the 2016 and the 2020 Olympics, will become the first Middle East nation to host the FIFA World Cup in 2022.
Thank you very much for the update. You're listening to the Beijing Hour. Coming up in culture and entertainment, Christopher Nolan's Tenet gets international and U.S. release dates.
Join the most popular Chinese language learning page on Facebook by searching for CRI Learn Chinese. It's a quick yet fun way to achieve your language goals. Start your free lessons now.